started. We're a little bit ahead of time, but I could always talk longer. And I have this goes until 2 o'clock. Okay. Well, thank you guys all for coming. I know it was really hard to figure out like what one should I go to out of the different options for your second rounds of classes. So thank you for those of you that are here again the second round, or for some of you who weren't here for the first round. I'm Kristen. I am a registered dietitian, a registered nutritionist, and I do individual consults, group workshops. I do some contract work, coming up with meal planning services and some different things like that. So if you are interested after this, working more one-on-one, or I'll even go to people's houses and do some plant-based cooking, or help you reorganize your pantry or kitchenscaping and things like that. Grocery store tours, like one of my favorite things. I just did one yesterday. So if you need some more specialized individual nutrition, we talked about this. That was the last, I guess, little quote thing that I ended at the last class was KIVD, knowing it versus doing it. I'm giving you the education, but sometimes we really do need that accountability to follow up and making sure that we're executing some of the things that we've now learned. So with that being said, who is new to this one that didn't come to the last one? Okay, awesome. So it looks kind of like 50-50. So I'm going to be going over a little bit of what I talked about in the first class, but more in depth as far as how can we manage hormones, blood sugar regulation, autoimmune conditions, a variety of different things there. And we kind of started getting into this at the end of the first class, but these are all being recorded, so if you want to go in and just listen in on what was recorded on the first session, I think it was some good, helpful information. So with that being said, on our first, we'll be using this pocket to kind of go through. The first page, which this is what we went in the first class, was foods to avoid and include. So I'll just briefly touch on this before I go more into our blood sugar regulation and overcoming some of those carb cravings and whatnot. But as far as the foods to avoid, these are things, especially the more refined carbohydrates and sugar we eat, yes, that causes inflammation in the body. Yes, that increases free radical species and potential damage for the long term. But it's also going to lead us to want more carbs and sugar, and it's hard to break that cycle. So it's really important of just making simple swaps. Okay, if you're doing even like 3 pops a day, I call it soda. I'm from Boston, so I have to keep getting used to saying calling it pop. But even by switching from 3 to 2 to 1, dramatic difference. There's 60 grams of sugar in a Pepsi, and that added up 3 times throughout the week. Not just calories, but what it's doing for your blood sugar regulation and balance. So the first 2 is sugar and refined carbs, and just finding some places that you can replace or substitute or even just decrease the total amount that you're getting. The preservatives and additives, so monosodium glutamate, MSG, that's one major one. Just dyes, colorings, food additives. And then the last one is the trans fats and partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. So we went into this much more in depth and in detail in the first one, but this is, just because a label says trans fat, 0 grams on the trans fats when you look at the label, if a product has less than 0.5 grams, they can just say 0. So that's why I always say go to the ingredients. We're a trained culture to go to calories, and I'm trying to retrain the brain to say, go to the ingredients first. And, just working with some of my clients, they'll come up and be so excited that they purchased, the Nature Valley green bar. But I say, let's just take a look, because the front doesn't tell us anything. And when we turn around to the back and look for the ingredients, sugar is the second ingredient, followed by a couple other forms of sugar. Well, that's where we have to really turn around and look at what is making up this product. But yeah, the trans fats, we're looking for hydrogenated vegetable oils. That's one that we want to avoid. And then foods to include. So if you are struggling with any kind of health condition, including more fruits and vegetables, I think of this as the information for ourselves, okay? So imagine a movie. We know the movie stars. We know Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. We know the movie stars. Those are like our protein, carbs, and fat. We've heard about those big guys. But sometimes we forget about all the vitamins and minerals and all of these antioxidant compounds. Those are like the cameraman, the lights, the producer, the things that we don't see, but behind the scenes, they are making the whole show work. And that's what we'll talk about including more of. So even if you're not going to cut back on the pop just yet, why not add in every day for lunch, you're going to add in 2 cups of leafy greens. It doesn't have to be a salad. It could be blended into a smoothie. It could be sautéed into your stir fry. It could be, snuck into a vegetable lasagna. There's some different things of what can you add in to get more of the color. And so that's really on this column on the right, more brightly colored fruits and vegetables, building on the fruits and vegetables first. Instead of we're having spaghetti and meat sauce, it's what's our vegetable tonight and what can we pair with that. So some different things there, herbs and spices, more nuts and seeds because they do have protein and fiber. I'll go into the specifics as far as kind of meal planning, but we'll come back to kind of this page. But this is really where we're trying to think of, okay, how can we just include more of these phytonutrient, which is our plant nutrient-based foods into the diet. So now I'm going to go into a little bit about more of these healthy tips, blood sugar regulation. So my first tip on there, and I mean this is right back into foods to avoid and include, is to just come back to earth. So think of, if you're going to eat a hot dog, it's kind of hard to identify like where that hot dog came from. But if we were to purchase a chicken breast, if we were to purchase an apple, a piece of fish, you can actually see that food. You can see where it came from, the earth, the sky, the sea, land, these kinds of things. Coming back to earth, choosing less processed and packaged foods. Eating breakfast every day. Raise your hand if you had breakfast this morning. Okay, some of us, couple of us. So breakfast is going to be like our kickstart. So think of you are, jumping into your car and there's no gas in the tank. You're like turning the gears and it's just not going to work to its best ability. And what I want to, share with you is that food really is a foundation for our health. And if we're not providing it the right gas, or we're not putting in any gas from the start, we're kind of going to be sputtering to not our best ability. We're not going to be feeling our best potential. And you mentioned that you had lost like 50 pounds. Did you notice a change in your energy levels at all?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
The first one I gave up was my soda for the pop, so that was hard. That was a hard one for me. So.
Yeah, and I think the biggest change too is like sometimes we don't realize how bad we feel until we start feeling really good.
Yep.
It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize whenever I woke up I had pain, and now I haven't had pain anymore. Or some of these different things, and that can be just all the world of the difference by bringing light to the cameraman and the lights and all the nutrients that are doing the work behind the scenes. But starting your day off with breakfast is super important. So we'll create some of what a sample plan for you all that's kind of specific where you will get to create it. But we will include breakfast. And why don't you guys throw out to me, what are some obstacles to breakfast for some of you that maybe you're now starting to do breakfast, or now you're, realizing it's more challenging than you thought? What are some obstacles to breakfast? Time. Always the number one. Time. Anyone else?
Your kids.
Kids, more important, especially as females. We're taking care of others. We're caregivers. And that's a really good point. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves, it might work for a day, a couple days, a couple weeks. Long term, it's not going to work because our health, we're not going to have that same energy to put forward for someone else if we're not taking care of ourselves. So maybe others first, time, any other ones?
Getting bored with the same thing.
Yep, boredom. So hopefully that's what I'll help to give some new ideas and get some.
Is an egg.
Definitely. So these are all really good things that we'll kind of work through. As far as timing, I'll just kind of address a few of these for breakfast specifically. Timing, we were talking about smoothie. You can make them the night before and take it on the go. They have also the blenders where you could just blend it and then take that cup to go. Doing something like overnight oats. Has anyone heard of this, overnight oats? So you can just mix up, I'll usually do this on Sunday. It takes about maybe max 10 minutes max for the whole week, for breakfast for the week. And I'll put out my Tupperware or my jars and I dollop in oats. I put in some Greek yogurt, I put in some berries, and then maybe some nuts, and I mix it up. And that's also, as far as some of the different packets that you guys have, there's a recipe for overnights on here. But what that does is once you jar all of them up, you keep them in the fridge, and you don't have to heat it up. The oats absorb the liquid from either the milk or the yogurt, whatever you ended up putting in there, so you don't have to heat it up. It's literally grab it out the door and go. So like an overnight oats is something you could make ahead of time. If you wanted to do eggs, you could do an egg. I'll just, again, a dozen eggs, throw in the veggies, mix it up, put it in a pan and just bake it. And then you could just slice it up. So you don't have to put in, the sausage, which you're, scrambling up before. You can just do eggs and veggies. And it's really easy just to pour in. So as far as something that takes, it's a little bit quicker to cook. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of egg muffins.
I do those.
Yeah, so you're doing the same thing. Instead of a casserole dish, you're pouring it into like a muffin tins, and then you're baking it, and that's something easy too. You can put them in the fridge and just grab it. I do cold because I don't care, but you can heat it up and it can be nice and warm. So some just different things. Again, same with like the eggs and egg. Hard-boiled egg, soft-boiled egg, fried egg, scrambled eggs, egg omelet, baked egg. I've done in my oats, if you like banana bread, mash up a really ripe banana, throw in some oats, add an egg into it, and then just put it in the microwave for about 1 to 2 minutes, and it fluffs up as almost this like banana oatmeal thing, but it has the extra protein in it. So just some different ideas for time and variety, because again, we're only going to do something so long, but if we're not really enjoying it or we're getting kind of bored, it's probably not going to be more sustainable. So that's a little bit on breakfast. The next few points that I'll talk on will be timing, pairing, and I guess I'll say just portion size as well. Before I go into that, because I'm going to do my little diagram, for some of you that was in my last class, I'll do the diagram again. But before we go right into that, I'm just going to jump to number 7, sleep, and I'll also briefly touch on just mindful eating for just a moment before we go more into that. So sleep, totally crucial. I think it's we don't think of it as important as it truly is. And if you had to think about someone who is going to not eat, they were, trying to